All right, so these are the notes for 5.4, writing equations of sines and cosine functions. So the first thing I'm going to point out is, notice right here we have our start. If we don't have some kind of dot telling us where we start, then we're kind of stuck, okay? And this is your standard sine function. So this sine function right here starts at 0, 0. And notice it starts on the midline. The midline is the x-axis. So right now, this is my midline, and the shape formed is of a flipped S. So if you could turn this paper sideways and then look at it in a mirror, it would look like an S. This is a positive sine function. All right, so when we go down here to the bottom, by the way, this is the equation of sine function and the equation of cosine function. The only difference is the word sine or cosine in there. So let's take a look at the graph down below. How does it change from the one above? I've got to angle this. I can't see it. There we go. So first of all, I'm just going to tell you what the kids told me today. They picked up real quick that, oh, wait a minute. This started at -1. So does that mean it's the midline? Yes, it does. So the midline is what value? If you didn't know, it's the B value. So this is the midline. So this means that B is equal. I just said B. It's the D value. Did I just say B out loud? Tell me I did not. I think I'm tired. I've been grading a lot of papers today, and I'm nowhere near where I need to be. So this is the midline, and it is D, and it's equal to -1. So this value right here, that is your midline. Zoop. Okay. These are your amplitudes. Boy, am I tired. These are amplitudes. So if you look at your amplitude right here, where it tops out and bottoms out, okay, it's hitting your midline. You can tell is hitting in the middle of that. Here's the midline. And your amplitude is 2. So if the amplitude is 2, your A is 2. Now, one thing you want to make sure of is with a sine function that you get above that in the first 2 increments. There's one increment. There's the next one. You're up above the midline because that's representing your positive numbers in right here. These are 2 positive numbers in the standard, and that's what it's representing down here. So my A is 2, and then, okay, we have a B and a C. So our B factor actually comes from what is the period. The period here, P, is equal to 2 pi, and the increment, well, let's just go back to period. We know our period is 2 pi, and so if period is equal to 2 pi over B, and we go, oh, wait a minute, I know my period's 2 pi, so I'm going to replace period with 2 pi equals 2 pi over B. Well, what does B have to be? I think everybody can see it's 1. So B is equal to 1, and C comes from, well, where does it start? In most of them, it works like this. If it does not start simply at 0, our C is some other number. And I'll tell you how to get there in a minute. So right now, it started at 0, so C is 0. So if we're going to write the equation of the line, remember I'm going to use this equation right here and fill it in. Y is equal to A, which is 2, sine of X, and B was 1, so there's no change in that, minus 1. All right, now I'm going to go over here and look at cosine. My cosine function started at out 0, up 1, and it's in a rolled C or a cup. Your C is like this, so you're going, I don't see the C. Well, if your C is turned sideways, and then we roll out the edges, that's what a cosine looks like to start with. But it's more of, you can see this, I'll just outline it right here. It's this bowl looking piece, right? And it takes, notice it takes from 0 to 2 pi to complete it as well. Okay, so what's different about this one? First of all, what is the amplitude and what is the midline? Because your midline is represented by D. The fact that this one started at 1, this one started at 3, that's a big difference. So let's see, this is my max. If we wanted a top amplitude line and a bottom amplitude line, and we could split the difference, that would put us at 1 for the midline. So there's 1 for the midline. So that means D is equal to 1. Your amplitude is how far it is above that midline, which is 2. The second thing I want to look at, does this cup hold water? If it will hold water and not dump it over on you, then it's positive. Oh, it's positive because it's not dripping water, okay? So we've got that. Since this finished its cycle right there at 2 pi, then if it finished its cycle at 2 pi, then B has to be 1. That is our B value. So now we're going to write the equation, y equals 2 cosine of x plus 1. All right, this was a plus 1 because it moved up instead of down. All right, let's look at the next page. All right, so let's figure out, is this sine or cosine? Look at where it's starting. Is it starting on a midline or is it starting on an amplitude line? Let's put our amplitude lines in. Amplitude line, look at that. It didn't start on an amplitude line, it has to be a sine. What is the amplitude? Well, it only opens up half above that 2. So this is 1/2 or 0.5, I'll take either one. So A is either a half or negative a half. Okay, let's see if this S opens up in a positive direction first. It does, so A is positive. The period, how long does it take to get back to that midline? Now be careful, this is not back to the midline yet. I know it crosses the midline, but it has to come back to the midline because it's got to get those negative numbers in as well. All right, so the full period is pi. All right, and then so how in the world are we going to get B from this? What is B? So what we do is we know period is equal to 2 pi over B. And if the period is pi, we would set it up like this. Pi equals 2 pi over B. And the kids told me today they like to multiply both sides by B. The B's cancel. B times pi is equal to 2 pi. Divide by what's attached to B. That's the pi. And I'm left with 2. So B equals 2, right there. All right, did it start at x equals 0? Here's x is 0. Did it start on that line? Heck yeah, it did. So yes, and that means our C is 0. Did the midline move? Well, yeah, the midline's right here. It's on -2. So D is -2. And the midline, just so you know, when you're going to write it, is y equals -2. Okay, so write the equation of the line. That's what I meant to say right here. It says it on your paper. Y equals, okay, I need the A, 1/2, and it is sine, so I don't write cosine, I write sine of, notice my B has changed, 2x. The C was 0, so I don't have to put plus or minus there, and D is -2. Done. All right, this one, sine or cosine? Well, let's see. If we have an amplitude line's going to be up here, down here. It starts on the amplitude, must be a cosine. All right, so what is the amplitude? Well, wait a minute. Let's find the middle of this. It goes up 4, down 2, so split the difference. It's going to be at 1. So here's our midline. So it's up 3, down 3. It matches, so that must be right. That's the amplitude. Is this going to hold water, this cosine curve? Is that going to hold water? Is it going to dump it out? I hope you know it's going to hold water right there. So it is a positive answer. So 3 is our A. The period, it takes from 0, and it's back here at 4 pi. So it is 4 pi. If P is equal to 2 pi over B, what is B? So that means we're going to set this equal to the period right here. So 4P equals 2 pi. Oh my gosh, 4 pi equals 2 pi over B. I'm sorry, guys. I think I'm really tired. All right, so I'm going to cross multiply or multiply by B. Divide by 4 pi. So B equals 2 pi over 4 pi. My pi's cancel, and this reduces to 1/2. Okay? Did it start at x equals 0? Yep. So C is 0. Did the midline move? Yes, it moved up to 1, and that's where D is. So write your equation. And we're done. By the way, this could be written as 3 cosine. I want to tell you this in case you see it in Delta Math. It could be written as theta over 2 plus 1 or x over 2 plus 1. Just so you know, 1/2 x and x over 2, they are the same thing. Okay? All right. Next. Okay, one more and that's it. All right, so let's try this. The starting point is vital. Okay, so this where it starts is very important. Now, you do know that that is our top line. This is our bottom line. So is this a sine or a cosine? Well, it started on our amplitude line, so it is cosine. All right, so the cosine, sorry about these quote marks. I couldn't get them out. I tried to the other day. Cosine is where it's starting, and then it's not, well, let's go ahead and let's follow the same path that we were doing. The midline is going to be at 0 because it's 2 up, 2 down. So that means our A is equal to 2, our B is equal to 0. I'm sorry, D is 0. B is not 0. How long does it take to finish it to find our B? Let's go in and find our B. What is B? Well, we need to know what the period is. Well, if we go find our period, this is a little weird. So this is 2 units off of 0. So this is actually halfway back. So it's negative pi over 4. And if we go to this 2 pi, and we go back 2 units in the same direction, it would be pi over 4 units, but it's not going to be pi over 4 units before 2 pi is 7 pi over 4. So this is located at 7 pi over 4, but our period's not 7 pi over 4. Our period is still 2 pi because the distance between 0 and 2 pi is exactly the same for negative pi over 4 and positive 7 pi over 4. So our period is still 2 pi. So if P is equal to 2 pi over B, B had to be 1. D is equal to 0. Sorry, I've already said that, but oh my gosh, I'm tired. The only thing I'm missing is C. So I want to find C. Now I'm going to tell you, in this case, because B is 1, C is equal to whatever is right here, wherever the starting point is. C equals negative pi over 4. Now, the tough part is, this is so funny. My phone just picked up, Google just picked up what I was saying, and it's trying to figure out what I'm talking about. That's really funny. All right, so I've got a timer going, trying to keep my time under 15 minutes, but I'm almost done. So I can write the equation. Let me go over here and write this equation. So you can turn it off when you're done with this equation if you're like, okay, got it, we're good. A was 2. Was it positive 2? I didn't look to see, but yes, this would hold water. So it is positive 2 cosine of x, and it's going to be plus pi over 4. And it becomes plus because in the original equation, it is a minus sign, just saying. And then it has a plus 0, so the plus 0 doesn't have to be there, okay? That is your equation. Now, what I want to show you, and this is going to go over my 15-minute limit, and I was trying to keep it under. I do want to show you why, how to do this. I'm going to have to call my son back in just a second. He's calling me. So let me show you how to do this problem. So normally a cosine equation, remember it's y equals a cosine x bx minus c plus d. This is the piece I want to focus on. What we do normally is we set that bx minus c equal to 0, okay? So what I do know is that b is 1 in this case. So I'm going to turn b into 1. My x in this case, I can see the x value. It's negative pi over 4. C is the value I'm looking for, and this is why it works out the way it does. I just want to show you this. Add c to both sides, and that means 1 times negative pi over 4 is negative pi over 4. I added c because c is negative, so I added c to both sides, and now you can see that it came out to be negative pi over 4. So that's the reason we got that answer right there. But if something happens, b is not 1, it's going to change this value, okay? And that's the piece you have to be aware of, all right? This is bonus material, all right? Just saying, and I am going to give you one like that as bonus. But anyway, there you go, all done.